All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We are looking at something totally wild today, a truly fascinating legal defense where a scientist literally used the laws of physics to fight a criminal charge. We're going to examine this unique courtroom battle where complex system dynamics and network probability essentially took the stand. I mean, it's not every day you see mathematical equations brought into a courtroom to prove someone's innocence, but that's exactly what we're dissecting today. So, can the literal laws of physics keep you out of prison? It's a crazy question, right? But it sits right at the heart of our explainer today, exploring how complex system dynamics were used to completely deconstruct a very serious legal accusation. It's this rare, incredible moment where objective, unyielding mathematical models collide head-on with subjective human legal interpretations. When a person's freedom is literally on the line, can the fundamental laws of nature act as the ultimate alibi? Let's find out. Section 1. A scientist on trial. The charge: disrupting public order. Let's quickly look at the massive legal hurdle our protagonist, Dr. Chen Jingyuan, was up against. The specific charge here is picking quarrels and provoking trouble. Now, to make this stick, the prosecution had to prove that Dr. Chen's retweets directly resulted in severe chaos in the public order. But to prove a crime, you absolutely need a solid causal link between the action and the result. And the defense essentially asks a highly scientific question in response. How can a few clicks on a keyboard practically cause widespread societal chaos? They argue this charge relies on a fundamentally flawed understanding of cause and effect in a digital ecosystem. Moving on to Section 2, chaos as a system feature. Let's deconstruct this whole idea of disorder by zooming way out to a macro-level view of social networks. Okay, so the defense pulls out the CAP theorem from computer science. Basically, it states that in any massive distributed system, like a social media network, you absolutely cannot guarantee perfect consistency, continuous availability, and tolerance to network partitions all at the same time. You just can't have all three perfectly aligned, meaning absolute order is mathematically impossible. The system is naturally messy, It is constantly fluctuating between order and chaos just to function. So the crucial takeaway the defense makes here is that chaos is actually a built-in, intrinsic property of the network itself. You literally cannot blame one single user for the normal background noise of an entire system. If a network is mathematically proven to be somewhat disorderly by its very nature, legally attributing that chaos to one individual's routine action is what scientists call a category mistake. You are basically blaming a single drop of water for the ocean being wet. Think about it like this. Every time you take a single breath, you theoretically affect the entire Earth's atmosphere, right? But we obviously don't criminalize breathing because the impact is infinitesimally small. The defense argues that a retweet functions the exact same way within the vast atmosphere of social media. Yes, every action theoretically has some micro impact, but scaling that up to a macro-level societal collapse completely defies the laws of physics. Section 3. The fringe node defense and the power of network robustness. Let's shift gears to the meso level and look at the defendant's actual structural capacity to cause harm. In network science, social platforms are what we call scale-free networks. They rely on huge hub nodes. Think massive media outlets, politicians, or celebrities to spread information widely and rapidly. The defense argues that only these hub nodes have the structural power to cause system-wide disruption. The rest of us, the vast majority, are just fringe nodes, hanging out quietly at the very edges of the network, practically invisible to the overall macro system. And look at Dr. Chen's actual account stats. We're talking under 100 total followers, a ton of inactive zombie accounts, and basically zero interaction. He is the textbook definition of a fringe node. By citing Cohen's critical threshold formula, which is essentially a mathematical way to measure how much damage a network can take before breaking, the defense proves that altering or removing a fringe node has absolutely zero structural impact. The network's immunity, its robustness, is just too strong. His capacity to inflict structural damage is physically non-existent. Section 4. The mathematics of an avalanche. Now let's zoom way into the micro level and see why a system-wide collapse was mathematically impossible. Because of his fringe status, any information Dr. Chen shared instantly entered what scientists call a deep subcritical zone. When we talk about information spreading like an avalanche, we model it as a branching process. For an avalanche to actually happen, every single person who sees a post needs to share it with more than one new person. If they share it with fewer than one person on average, the spread is subcritical. And that brings us to this mathematical reality. R is less than 1. When the average branching number, that R value, is less than 1, a cascade simply cannot survive. Because Dr. Chen had almost no active followers, his R value was way below 1. In physics terms, you aren't starting a massive fire here, you are basically dropping a match into a vacuum. Following what's known as the Galton-Watson extinction process, we see exactly why the defense claims the probability of this specific retweet causing severe chaos is essentially 0. A fringe node shares something, the branching number stays under 1, and the information cascade mathematically extinguishes. It is guaranteed to die out almost instantly. So charging a fringe node with causing a massive informational avalanche isn't just unlikely, it's mathematically contradictory. I absolutely love this analogy the defense makes. If a system collapses from a single straw, the true cause is that the system was already in a highly unstable, supercritical state. It's the whole straw that broke the camel's back idea. If a single piece of straw breaks a camel's back, you don't blame the straw, right? You blame the massive load already placed on the camel. If society genuinely collapses over a retweet with 0 engagement, well, the system was already incredibly unstable to begin with. Section 5. Translating physics into law. Let's see how they actually bridge this disciplinary gap to build a direct legal defense. This is where it gets brilliant. They didn't just throw math at the judge, they translated it perfectly. Being a fringe node, that legally proves a lack of objective dissemination ability. The subcritical zone, that completely severs the causal link between the action and the alleged outcome. An unpredictable system complexity, that shifts the whole event from a deliberate crime into an unforeseeable accident. Using Article 16 of the criminal law, the defense argues that because the butterfly effect in a complex system is mathematically unpredictable, any chaos that does result is legally an accident, not a crime. If social systems are chaotic by nature, no single individual, not even a highly educated scientist, could ever foresee that a subcritical retweet would cause severe social disorder. And without that foreseeability, there is absolutely 0 criminal intent. Which brings up this really fascinating friction. Authorities often misinterpret these tiny, microscopic, subcritical blips as massive systemic threats. It perfectly highlights the tension between how a complex system naturally operates, with all its varied signals and constant background noise, and how legal entities might mistakenly perceive that normal, everyday noise as a direct attack on order. Section 6. The ultimate empirical test. Let's look at the actual real-world data gathered after the defendant's release. So what actually happened in the real world? Well, the defendant is released. Those allegedly illegal tweets, they remained online, completely untouched for years. And the engagement? Total silence. Absolutely 0 engagement. No likes, no retweets. Time itself acted as the ultimate laboratory. The physical evidence proved that no severe chaos ever manifested. The Galton-Watson theorem held up perfectly in the real world. The cascade mathematically extinguished itself, leaving 0 trace of chaos behind. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. When objective physics meets subjective law, which one determines the truth? It's a massive question, really challenging us to consider what happens when linear legal frameworks collide with a totally nonlinear, complex world. Thank you for walking through this incredible scientific defense with me, and definitely keep questioning how the systems around us really work.